how's it going? It's Wednesday, May 29, and today's question is, are you feeling happy today? Oh, I certainly hope so, though never mind the midweek blues. Let's get into the latest game news. A warm welcome back to new and existing subscribers. Thank you for choosing Foxy Games UK. I'm Fox, your reliable source of aggregated video game news, speculation, and rampant rumour. So in today's news, we cannot have people thinking Foxy Games UK only covers favourable PlayStation news, and so it appears Sony are in the headlines, and for all the wrong reasons. The PlayStation maker is under investigation by the ACCC, that's the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, for allegedly misleading Australian gamers. Source via pressstart.com.au. Here's the full story. So the ACCC has today revealed that it is undertaking proceedings in the federal courts against Sony Interactive Entertainment for making false or misleading representations to Australian consumers on both its website and the PlayStation Store. This relates to Sony's controversial refund policy, which has been widely spoken about in recent times, and not just in the region of Australia. In particular, the ACCC has alleged that Sony Europe has told consumers that it did not have to provide refunds for games that had been downloaded or if 14 days had passed since purchase. Now, the ACCC has said that this is not in line with Australian consumer laws. Here's a quote. "We allege that Sony Europe gave false and misleading information to their customers about their rights in relation to games sold via its PlayStation Store," the ACCC chair Rod Sim said, and he went on to say, "Consumer guarantees do not expire after a digital product has been downloaded, as we allege Sony Europe told consumers, and refunds must be given in the form of original payment unless a consumer chooses to receive its in-store credit. Consumers who buy digital products online have exactly the same rights as they would at a physical store. Sony Europe alleged conduct may have caused Australian consumers to seek a refund, replacement or repair for a faulty game when the Australian consumer law gave them the right to do so." And you can read the full statement by the ACCC by linking the article, which can be found in this video's description. Okay, so what gives here? Here's my thing. As EU law would dictate, there is a 14-day cooling off period for purchases that are made in relation to digital purchases, including service sign-ups that require the use of financial details such as a credit or debit card, just as in a brick and mortar store. Though software vendors have somewhat skirted around the directive with the argument that somehow digital purchases are to be treated differently. Well, that would be going against the consumer laws as indicated by Europe and Australia, I note. Different in North America, and the AU, that's Australia, actually falls under the regional jurisdiction of the EU in terms of video games and hardware. So is Sony, Nintendo, and to some extent Microsoft breaking consumer laws and infringing upon the rights of the consumer in general? Absolutely they are. It is written, so shall it be done. There is no argument about it, but what say you? Sound off in the comments. And in other news, this time sourced via BusinessInsider.com in a rather interesting though somewhat flawed article titled "New PlayStation and Xbox Consoles on the Horizon, Now is the Worst Time to Buy a New Video Game Console." Now this is something I actually committed to a video about 7-8 months ago when I presented the question, is it still worth buying a vanilla PS4 or the original Xbox One compared to the mid-cycle upgrades, or even just foregoing and waiting for the next gen. So I'll explain why the writer's opinion is mostly incorrect, and I'll be sure to give my thoughts after providing a little context. So Business Insider writer Ben Gilbert highlights 3 specific reasons as to really strengthen his argument. 1 being the next generation video game consoles are just over the horizon. 2, Microsoft and Sony already have begun speaking about the next generation, and rumors are swirling around about the next iteration of Nintendo's Switch. And 3, big 3. Between the big 3 console makers working on new hardware and the introduction of Google Stadia later this year, now isn't exactly the best time to buy a new system. Definitely plenty of holes to fill in here. So, With about 7 billion people on the planet, there's still a decent chance you're part of the 6.8 billion who don't own a PS4, Xbox One or Nintendo Switch yet, but perhaps you were thinking about getting one. Admittedly, it's very tempting. Each of the three has dozens of excellent games by now. They've been on the market long enough, and the consoles are less expensive than ever before. A used PS4 or Xbox One can go for around $200 or less, and a Nintendo Switch can be found for about $250. But maybe, just maybe, you should wait for the next wave of consoles. Microsoft and Sony are gearing up to announce new versions of the Xbox and PlayStation platforms. Microsoft's Xbox Commander-in-Chief, Phil Spencer, has outright announced Microsoft's ongoing work on new Xbox consoles. Here's a quote. So the same team that delivered unprecedented performance with Xbox One X is deep into architecting the next Xbox consoles, where we will still once again deliver on our commitment to set the benchmark for console gaming. This is what Spencer said on stage in Los Angeles, June 10, 2018, just as a quick reminder there. So the latest rumors point to multiple tiers of Xbox consoles, similar to the existing lineup with the Xbox One S and X consoles. And there are also rumors that the new Xbox will be completely compatible with all previous generations of Xbox. The code names are reportedly, as I've said many times, Lockhart for the less powerful and less expensive version, and Anaconda for the higher end, more pricey version. So that's Microsoft, but are we ready for the PlayStation 5? Well, at the very least, Sony clearly is. The company detailed the successor to the PlayStation 4 in an interview with Wired in April, where it discussed everything from the specific chips powering the console to when it's expected to launch. And here's a hint, it won't be this year. Now, unlike the PlayStation 4 Pro and One X half-step consoles that offered more power in the same console generation, the new PlayStation allows for, as I quote, fundamental changes in what a game can be, Mark Cerny, Sony's lead system architect, told Wired. Now, core to that mission is the new console's processing chips, a new central processing unit and a graphics processing unit from AMD. The former is based on AMD's Ryzen line, with the latter based on Radeon's GPU, that's the Navi line. So what does that mean for you? Well, the next PlayStation is built on chips that are yet to be released. Additionally, the new PlayStation console is said to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games, and Sony touted its speedy load times thanks to a solid-state storage drive and its ability to power higher resolution games than ever before, up to 8K. There is a point of contention on if it will do native 8K. Probably not. He also said that it won't arrive until some point in 2020. My guess is holiday. So don't count out Nintendo though. It's been just 2 years since Nintendo Switch arrived, and in these 2 years it's become a major hit, and now in 2019 it sounds like Nintendo may be gearing up for a second version of its hit console, with 2 reports in April, one from Nikkei and the other from Bloomberg, pointing to 2 upcoming Nintendo Switch consoles. One new version focused on portability could arrive this year, and the second, more powerful device is either delayed or outright cancelled in favour of a revision to the existing Switch. Now, the Nikkei report states that Nintendo will release a smaller, less expensive, portability-focused Nintendo Switch, and this fall. That lines up with previous rumors about Nintendo Switch hardware iterations, which pointed to 2 new versions of the Nintendo Switch. And the latter device is reportedly delayed, according to Nikkei, which cites development challenges. Bloomberg, however, says that the more portable version of the Switch could arrive as soon as June this year, and that the more powerful Switch will just be an update to the existing hardware rather than a design revision. Nintendo isn't commenting anything either, but President Shuntaro Furukawa denied that the new hardware will be announced in June. Here's a quote: "We have no plans to announce that at this year's E3 in June," he said in an investor call earlier this year, and he went on to say, "We're always working on new hardware and we'll announce it when we are able to sell it." Classic Nintendo line there. So Google, the Goliath, cometh. And so after years of rumors and speculation, Google officially detailed its plans to enter the video game business in March. Those plans start with a new service named Stadia, which Google CEO Sundar Pichai said will offer blockbuster games on any device that can run the Chrome web browser, anything from smartphones to tablets to laptops and TVs. The pitch is simple. If you've got Chromecast or an iPhone, you could potentially run Stadia. Stadia promises to do for video games what Netflix services have done for TV and film. Unlike Microsoft's Xbox, Sony's PlayStation and Nintendo's Switch, Google is promising no additional hardware is required to use the 10.7 T-flop powered Stadia virtual gaming platform. Here's a quote: at launch will support being able to play games across desktops, laptops, TVs, tablets and phones. This new generation of gaming is not a box. So said ex-Sony, ex-Microsoft and now Google Vice President Phil Harrison intimated at the Stadia announcement event back in March. All processing is handled in the cloud by Google's hardware in a data center and streamed to you instantly. Your inputs are then instantly beamed back to you to the computer wherever you are. This is an oversimplification of what is really assuredly a deeply complicated process, but it's similar to how Netflix works. Instead of having to run physical media, it simply streams to wherever you are watching it. So here's my point of contention. Sony promised a further 3 years of support for PlayStation 4 with more AAA exclusives coming. In order to mitigate the inevitable loss the company will incur when launching the PlayStation 5, but don't get too comfortable with that aging hardware because companies have been known to say this toward the end of any given generation. They obviously want consumers to continue to buy the 100 million strong PlayStation 4. However, this time I'm more inclined to believe Sony, particularly for the following reason. Now, as I've mentioned enough times on this channel, PlayStation 5 is going to offer gamers far more bang for their buck. With a loss of up to $100 per PlayStation 5 unit, of course. It could be way less than that, but I'd imagine $100 is the absolute maximum, and Sony is going to lose money on PS5, at least initially. Sure, PlayStation Network, PlayStation Now, and other PlayStation-linked services will offset those losses. It's not like when PlayStation 3 had launched, a time when users did not have to pay to play online. So evidently, Sony are actually going to need to continue to sell PS4, so expect price cuts or multiple games to be thrown in with bundles to make the purchase a compulsive one. I also envisage Sony changing market direction for PlayStation 4 to make it more appealing to the younger audience, the family demographic if you will. It'll be fairly easy for Sony to transition PS4's appeal because the system has a great library ready to go. There will be more kid-friendly games created for the platform going forward, and the price between PS4 and PS5 will be so noticeable to the consumer who may opt to buy a PS4 knowing they can upgrade to PS5, knowing every PS4 game will work during that transition, as will the current PlayStation VR, current DualShock and other PS4 accessories such as steering wheels and so forth. Eventually, again, something I had said on FOXY Games UK before is that PS4 Pro will likely phase out PS4 before PlayStation 5 does, with a Pro price cut to around $249 perhaps $299 at a push, and compatibility with 4K panels and more capability. There's just enough power in the PS4 Pro to extend its cycle beyond the vanilla model. Though what of Microsoft? Well, Microsoft has gone on record promising no Xbox left behind. How they'll manage to keep such a promise years post next gen is beyond me. I just cannot see how the original Xbox One, the S, and eventually the currently most powerful console in the world, the Xbox One X, is going to be able to deliver a reasonably high quality experience by the end of year 2021, especially given the advances in game engines, ray tracing and other sophisticated rendering techniques. The same could be said for Sony's 4K ready PS4 Pro, but in reality most of you know that Xbox One has been struggling to keep up for at least 2 years now, and you can watch any Digital Foundry comparison video for evidence of that. Developers will not be happy to waste precious resources overly optimizing Xbox One games, so there will be likely two scenarios that will exist. One, Xbox One games released but really ridiculed by the media publicly and just won't be worth playing, and two, developers swiftly abandon the Xbox One and S models altogether and focus on X versions, though Microsoft may not be happy with that, really because it undermines that no left behind Xbox promise. As for game streaming services, Google Stadia, xCloud and PlayStation Now, well, that remains to be seen. There is the issue of latency. Yes, horrible lag. No matter how low they promise to get the latency down, it will never be as responsive as playing on native hardware. Not now, not anytime soon. And what of the hundreds of millions of people who either have limited, poor, capped or no internet access at all? Well, here's a quote. We have a product for those people. It's called the last generation. Not exactly said by ex-Xbox boss Don Matrick, but of course I'm jesting and not forgetting Nintendo, though I get the feeling no matter what the future holds, people will always want to play Mario, Zelda and other world-famous Nintendo IP that you'll unlikely ever get to play on other platforms, though stranger things have happened. So if you could just pay for this streaming service instead of buying new consoles, would you still buy those consoles? What say you? Go ahead, sound off, share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, because that unfortunately brings us to the end of another video. But let's continue the discussion in the comments. And for all your current and next-gen news updates, rumour and rampant speculation, hit the like button, spread the word and keep it locked to FOXY Games UK. Remember, relevant links where applicable can be found in this video's description. Subscribe to FOXY Games UK. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss content. Thumbs up if you like it here, and help us reach more like-minded gamers simply by sharing this video. Consider supporting FOXY Games UK via Patreon, and or grab yourself a FOXY Games UK branded t-shirt or hoodie available in various colours and designs. You'll find both links in this video's description. Truly appreciate the support. Well, that concludes our time together today. Yeah, I know, but it was great hanging out. Until the next video, remember, play games, not corporations.